I'm sitting here on July 3rd in the mountains of North Carolina with my family in a mountain house my old man bought in 2019, and feels like a good time to bring in a conversation that I had with him. You see, my dad is a guy who has been an entrepreneur running businesses since the early days of computing. He's been through multiple context changes being in that world. And we recently sat down and talked about strategic shifts that he employed at companies that he took over, either purchased through a family office acquisition group and ran for this family office, which they mentioned here, called the Cisneros, or entrepreneurial ventures that he purchased himself and started. And this one is set in the late 70s in Caracas, Venezuela, where I was born and where my family's from. And he purchases through this family office a chain of supermarkets during the dawn of computing and automation. And what you're gonna notice in this story, what I'm hoping you take away from here is the interesting nature of these companies that hold real estate and are operation companies, right? And how that structured his deal. I think that's interesting for anybody that's in the property management business and thinking about their assets and what they manage. But more importantly, the approach of how automation during a time of prosperity, of a growing market, which is what we all feel like right now in property management, right? They say that we're in the golden age of property management. It's a prosperous market. Was not seen as a threat to jobs, was not seen as like a threat to doing people business. It was really seen as what responsible business owners were doing to increase the capacity for their employees. I think that's kind of similar to where we're at with AI, right? Like, I'm not sure why it's seen so much as a threat, but in this historical context, right, they say history repeats itself, and knowing how history repeats itself gives you the answers to the test before they happen. And I also hope that you think my dad's cool, because I do too. So enjoy this story. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go.
This is Cisneros bought the largest supermarket company in Venezuela, which is something that I had never understood how they were able to actually buy that, because it was at a time when American companies or foreign companies were not allowed to owe more than 20% of anything in banking or mass distribution. That was the law. El Pacto Andino dictated that. Dictated that. And Venezuela applied that 100%. So this company was owned, it was a public company, 51% owned by the Rockefeller family. Mm-hmm. And the Rockefeller family wanted to sell the stake.
Interesting.
And
it was the Rockefeller family in the late 70s owned the biggest supermarket chain.
Oh, they owned more than that. Rockefeller had a big investment in Venezuela.
Okay. I can go down a rabbit hole there, but I want to stay to this.
I know, but
this
is one of their main companies.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah, and they were allowed to keep other, but they had to get out of banking and they had to get out
Interesting.
Those are the two areas.
Because that's the Pacto Andino was like foreign influence.
Forbid it.
Got it.
More than 20% ownership.
Force them to divest.
Yeah, they wanted to protect what they would call the critical industries.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Anyways, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
So this company was a public company owned 51% by the Rockefeller family, but the board of directors was a who's who of Venezuela. They were offered that, and he said, look, I want $22 million for this.
The board of directors said, give us $22 million and you have the company.
They were offered. The families that were in the board of directors were very rich families in Venezuela.
Okay.
I mean, Rockefeller offered, look, I want to get out. Look, you are my
Rockefeller
partners.
said, I have to divest.
You are minority. They were minority shareholders.
Yeah,
I want out.
Got it.
You guys, offered it to them.
Yeah, just offer me $22 million is yours.
Not one of them was brave enough to say, all right, I'll pay 100 millones de bolívares, 100 million bolívares. That was $22 million at the time. And good old Cisneros went to Chase, got a $22 million loan.
What a beast.
And bought it out. However, after we did some extensive, I spent like about a month looking at balance sheets, assets, what was there. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we had seen is that in the balance sheet of the companies we were buying, there was some real estate in one of the most attractive shopping centers, Caracas, that was listed at book value. And at the time, market value was equal to the purchase price.
Okay.
So, hey,
So you saw the real estate asset.
well, no, we paid the loan out of selling that real estate, which we didn't want anyway.
interesting, yeah.
So it came out to zero. The
Got it.
loan
Yeah.
that was,
You got a loan to acquire a business that when you sold like a real estate piece of the business, it paid the loan.
yes,
Yes. Got it.
yes,
Got
oh,
it. Brilliant.
and then
Okay.
finally, and then we went into business again.
Okay.
So
what was the strategy?
I didn't. So they ran that for a couple of years. For some reason or other, they started like a huge. They got into debt again, and they started this huge growth process that was not well under control.
Okay.
And at one point in time, the company wasn't doing well. So I was asked to come and run it to see if I could fix it. So the strategy there, and then, because what happens when that started happening, the financial people of the group took over and said, well, no more growth, don't open any more markets, this and that. That's not necessary. Oh, by the way, we had this great sign with a guy on top and everything that you could see for miles. Oh, no, you can't build that tower. That was part of the brand. They were destroying the brand.
Yeah.
So what I saw there is that if we kept doing that,
Yeah.
we would not.
You'd have nothing.
Oh, no.
You can't
that
have an
company's gonna
accountant
go
run the
broke.
company without a strategy.
No, that's right. So
Yeah.
so I changed that completely. I said, look, what we don't have here is automation. So the secret of bringing down the expense here is not firing people and doing this and doing that. It is automating processes. So we actually bought into, we designed a management systems built on computers where we hooked up the purchasing department to the main warehouse,
Okay.
and we built a new main warehouse so that we at the point when I took over, 20% of the products were delivered centrally, and 80% of the products were delivered directly to the supermarkets. So if we could change that, I saw that if we could change that formula, we could increase a margin from 15% to 32%. You could double the margin just by doing that. So I would say this warehouse is going to pay for itself.
Did that come with a people are going to lose their jobs fear? Like of this, like you weren't letting people go. You were automating them to
The problem was not people.
yeah.
The problem was automation. The problem was that we were actually, our margin was very low. Our expenses, the first thing I do is I compared that company with successful companies in the United States, percentage-wise. What is the average gross margin?
Yeah.
What is the average cost of personnel?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at a company like that, there's basically 2 or 3 things that are important, not more.
Yeah, I
Okay, the margin is very important. The cost of personnel is very important. Rental is very important. Those are the 3 things that, or cost of occupancy is
Cost of occupancy.
is the next thing. So we were underwater in a couple of those. So I decided that we had to fix that. The first thing is build a warehouse, and then
So then the automation investment is an investment in capacity. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to make the parallel to like stuff that's happening today, and I'm trying to put myself in. If you were automating this like communication, I would assume that before that there was people that were like in charge of doing that manually.
no, everything happened offline,
Everything happened
and we
offline,
brought everything to happen online.
online.
And the processes that were critical to happen online were purchasing, warehousing, and sales.
And offline required multiple touch points by humans.
Well, offline required a lot of time because you had to wait till the end of the day, process everything through, I guess,
A manual input.
a manual input,
Yeah.
a manual output,
Yep.
analysis. So what we did was
Yeah.
we just took everything and connected it.
Yeah.
We connected and the purchasing department was the key.
Yeah.
So we connected the supermarkets. We put computers in the supermarkets.
So the person that would do the tally at the end of the day, that person wasn't like, no, this is bullshit, I'm gonna lose my job, or that person was just like saw it as, oh, thank God I don't have to do this, I can now do other things.
No. Well, the person that was doing that was grateful because he had to wait for days to get the information to do his job.
Yeah.
When we connected the supermarkets to the warehouse and to the purchasing department, inventory could be checked on a daily basis.
Got it.
With inventory came purchase orders sped up by 100%.
Got it.
By doing that, negotiations with the suppliers, because then we centralized everything. We went from 20% delivered centrally to 70% delivered centrally. And when we centralized the product, its margin, we said,
Margin
look,
went even more.
you know, you don't have to deliver to every supermarket, so that is my margin.
Yeah, so you automated processes
Yes,
that used to take multiple steps that sped up decision making and action
and increase
and-
margin.
and increase margin and that increases margin, and then centralizing distribution also increased margin.
Actually gave us more control.
More control
More
and
control
increased
because
margin.
we would have then, they set up
Yeah.
every supermarket had its own truck.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So we could deliver.
yeah,
We could deliver twice a day
yeah.
by having a central warehouse and a truck that would go back and forth.
Yeah.
And what we did was we also automated the back rooms of the supermarkets
Yeah.
and put in like racks, but the racks are movable. So you would put a rack inside the truck, and you would then go back to the warehouse, fill up the rack, come to the supermarket, take the empty racks out,
Yeah.
come back to the warehouse. So we actually doing a couple of deliveries a day.
Yeah.
That was super efficient.
Yeah. I'm trying to, in my head, I'm like telling myself a story of pattern recognition as well. And I'm thinking of, this is what, 78, 79?
This is 78.
78. I've been pretty good on the dates so far, huh?
Yeah, 78, 79.
78, 79. And I'm thinking, like in my line of work right now, the solution that we sell is something that does similar thing, right? Like the process of maintenance at a property management company is a tenant says, my toilet's clogged, enters a ticket, somebody reads it, decides, is this something I need to reach out about right now because they only have one toilet? Or is it something that is not that big of a deal? You may call them and be like, hey, have you tried flushing a couple times, whatever? Or like, no, okay, it needs a plumber or it needs a handyman. Then it's like finding the
But
plumber.
the software does that automatically.
Yeah, then finding the plumber, the handyman, then like coordinating with the plumber and the handyman and the schedule of like the people. Then the person shows up, following up, getting the documentation, turning it into a report of why it costs that much. Is similar to,
Yeah.
like this manual process of what you just described to all of a sudden being able to done through technology. And the conversation around it is you're taking people's jobs, but in reality, we're letting everybody that was like handling that issue before do their job quicker and better
and more
and
efficiently.
pay more attention to the things that
Right.
matter.
That doesn't necessarily save people. What it does is save time.
It saves
and
time.
time is money.
And creates capacity for
Yeah,
people.
right.
And like, for example, one of our products is called like the PM.
And reduces further increase, because if you grow the company,
Yeah.
you don't automate it, then you have to put people in there to manage the back
Correct,
room.
correct.
So what we did is we stopped that growth.
Yeah, correct. But anyways, that's why it was so interesting to me that nobody was like screaming about losing their job, because it sounds very similar. But like when you look at it as, obviously as a business owner, it makes sense. But then I thought maybe the employee was worried, but the employee is already thinking, no, this just adds to my skill set. It makes my job
I guess
easier.
we've missed the point. The point is we were in a moment in Venezuela where
Yeah.
everything that you did turned to gold. So that you had to be stupid not to be able to grow your business.
Got it.
But this business couldn't grow.
Couldn't grow.
Because it
Got it.
didn't have the
Got
it
it.
didn't
So
have
these
the
were
process
people
to
that
grow.
were just like
Oh,
overworked.
thank you.
And,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
this was
that's
a lever
right.
for
That's
them,
right.
Which is why for us it's easier to sell to high growth property managers than to like stagnant property managers.
Right.
Right. So that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys through automation, that was the thing. What was the result in the amount of time? Like what was the?
I remember the financial results. I
Yeah.
don't remember, the amount of time, but I know that by doing this, our margin almost doubled,
It's a big deal.
which is a big deal. And therefore, our bottom line really tripled.
Yeah. It's way more profitable.
Yeah, it tripled, and our cash flow became better because then we were able to negotiate with our suppliers better, because when they came in, we say, okay, you know what? I pay you in 30 days, now I'm going to pay you in 60 days.
Yeah.
And that created a huge amount of cash, and you could use the cash in the working capital for a while before you had to pay these people.
Yeah.
So that became very, very, very attractive. It was funny because we had a 3-step that would go to, first it would go to the purchase department and they would hit them. Because we knew exactly now
You guys were
how
beating-
much
you
we
guys were
sold.
beating
We
people
didn't
up on
have any
terms.
numbers. For example, Company A, we didn't have any numbers on how much we bought from them.
Yeah.
So how could you have leverage?
Yeah.
But when you come to, hey buddy, I
Yeah.
buy 100 million from you. So you know what? You're gonna give me 10% more.
Yeah.
And by the way, because you're not going to deliver to the supermarket, you're going to deliver centrally.
Oh, God.
That saves you 10%. 5 of that is mine.
Yeah.
So we're actually able to be very aggressive, proving with numbers
Proving with value.
that, you know what,
Yeah. It's worth it. We're not
there's
just
a new sheriff in
we're
town
not-
and he wants his piece of cake.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like my worst nightmare of that role. I would hate to be that guy.
Well,
with how much I like
we
to be
did
loved.
it, like I said, we did it in steps.
Yeah,
First,
yeah.
they went to the purchasing department, they get hit there. Then I had a CFO that was just, the guy looked like a cadaver.
A
He was
cadaver.
yes, he was
Like Rick
tall,
Scott.
skinny, ugly-looking guy. Looked like he had dead. We call him Dead Guy. That was his nickname.
That guy.
Muerto parao.
Muerto parao.
Muerto parao. We called the guy Muerto parao. But that he said. But
Did
he
you
was so
did you
smart.
send this report to Muerto parao yet? Is that how it goes?
He's already dead. He's already really dead. He was much older. than
No,
I
but
was.
I'm saying was the conversation like, hey, did you send this report to Muerto parao?
Muerto parao. Anyway, so Muerto parao would take over then, and then we'd get him. And then if there was an important guy, he would come to me, and I would get say, look, you get already a discount to purchasing. You get a discount to my CFO. I gotta get my piece. I need to earn my
it. You
money
did the
too.
old car
So
dealership.
bow. So we would hit him a third time. And like I said, we were having a lot of fun, generating margin.
Yeah. You had a lot of fun winning.
Well, and like I said,
Yeah.
we would guarantee
Yeah.
that supplier
Yeah.
that we would be buying more.
Yeah, correct. You did create
And in
win-win.
exchange
you were
for that,
creating
and we
win-win
created a
scenarios.
win-win
Yeah, you
situation.
created
They
a win-win
couldn't say
scenario.
no.
You weren't. Yeah, correct.